Podcasts! Podcasts! I can't find my podcasts!
Well, what phone do you have?
It's an Android device!
Well, every Android user I know uses the Podcast Republic app. All you do is make your favorite shows your favorites, and they get downloaded straight to your phone faster than 88 miles per hour, and it's free.
It sounds much easier than chasing psychotic killers. I'll download the Podcast Republic app on my Android phone straight away. The Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store.
Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am one half of the mega podcasting powers, Trip Lano, and with me, as always, is a man who knows that by the time you fit your fifth sequel, you're probably just going to start doing other movie franchises. The Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano. God, this movie is the worst.
Indeed it is. We are here to talk about perhaps the worst of the entire franchise of Halloween.
I mean, 5 and 6 are pretty on par in terribleness.
Yes, that is indeed true. Although for some reason in my brain, I remember 6 being a little bit better.
No,
but anyway,
you remember, I'm gonna let you know you remembered that incorrectly.
Well, we'll get into that in just a second. But we watched Halloween 5, which is only called that on the movie, but according to the posters, is the Revenge of Michael Myers. Or the Curse of Michael Myers?
No, Curse is 6. It's Return, Revenge, Curse.
Okay. The Revenge of Michael Myers. So you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your poorly placed cartoon music. Something's gotta be done about your poorly placed cartoon music.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So have you seen the, air quotes, producer's cut of Halloween 6?
So I've seen clips of them, and one of my favorite YouTube channels just started a thing called Cut Comparison, where he breaks down all the differences between the two versions of a thing, and he did the first one on Halloween 6.
Oh, okay. For some reason, let's say this, because it has been many years since I watched part 6, and I'm not in a real hurry to go back there. Is it zanier?
Yes, but
because I feel
makes even less sense.
Okay, because I feel like I might be inclined to give some points for zaniness, because this movie is really just parts of Halloween 1, parts of Halloween 2, and then a whole Friday the 13th movie wedged in there for some reason. And I'm just like, I don't know where all this is coming from.
Plus Rocky and Bullwinkle bad guys.
Yes. It's just really bizarre. And we'll tackle all this stuff going along, of course, as we normally do. But right up top, it's like, this is a mess. This is a very bad movie.
I wrote later, I'll just quote it now. This movie is a big steaming poop on the original Halloween movie.
I was watching it fairly late at night, and I got about a half an hour into it, and I was like, I'm not sure I'm paying enough attention to this to do a good job of this podcast. So I stopped, and then I picked it back up a day later, and I went back 10 minutes, and I was like, no, I definitely remember watching all of these scenes. I still just don't think they make sense. I thought it was tired brain, put on something you don't have to be taking notes during, just put on a movie. But it was just that this movie is bad.
It's terrible. It's just bad decision after bad decision after, let's make something up on the fly.
Yeah.
Because I think part 4 is pretty good. I think Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Halloween 4 are the only 3 worth watching in the original chunk of movies.
I'm thinking we'll get to it at some point. I don't know when specifically we'll do it, but I'm thinking Halloween 3 might end up feeling much better than, because we've ragged on it a lot, and I've seen the movie, but it has been a long time, and I'm wondering if, upon a rewatch, I'll be like, this series really does go in order. Part 1 is the best, part 2 is second best, part 3 is the best. After that, you don't gotta the next best, then you don't have to bother with anymore.
So I find that Halloween 3 is a terrible Halloween movie, but as a scary movie, it's not bad.
But as a Halloween movie, it's no good.
Yeah, because it's like a random toy company. The whole plot if it had been released as Mask Mystery or something better than that as a title.
Right.
Like,
Goosebumps presents the one with the masks.
the best episode ever. Lori Beth? I think so. Yeah, like if it had been presented as like, the Mask Murderer or something like that didn't say we're part of the Halloween franchise, I think it would have been received a little better.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Apropos of almost nothing, just because I said Goosebumps. So I can't like act like this was like a natural thing that came up to divert topic because I brought up Goosebumps. But Netflix has this new show called Creeped Out, and it's like Goosebumps / Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, is it the one with the kid with the white face mask?
I don't
that, like,
know if
strings
it's
them all
actually.
together?
I don't know if it's actually a kid, but it's like Mr. Creepy or Creepy or the Creeper
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah,
I heard it was
And
pretty good.
that thing is not really involved. It just is like the creeper likes a creepy tale, and here's another creepy tale from Creeped Out. It's not like Tales from
He's
the
the
Crypt
Crypt
or
Keeper.
whatever. But he's not. Like he literally just is like walking down the road in the beginning of the episode, and then it's like another tale for the creeper, and then there's a
Yeah,
tale,
but I thought-
and then it's like it's like. You could not have the framing device and it would be fine. But it's like Black Mirror Jr. is what I've been describing
That's
to
what
people who have children.
That's what a lot of people are describing it as.
And I find it like the acting quality is significantly higher than it is for the children's programming of our youth. Like I have occasionally pulled up Are You Afraid of the Dark for various things I cut together for my friends, and I'm always like, man, these kids are terrible. Like children's acting on children's programming has always been pretty bad. This is better than average. Like I was surprised. Yeah. So if you're needing like a little quick filler in between your episodes or in between your Halloween watches, this is a decent way to fill 20 minutes.
The only episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that I really remember is the one with the pool monster, because that monster was like horrifying.
I legitimately found that show deeply frightening as a child.
Oh, I do too.
And it's funny, that and Unsolved Mysteries would just like scare the shit out of me. And even to this day, hearing the theme song for either one of them gives me a little heebie-jeebie.
I love that theme montage with the like swing set and the rocking chair and
it's in like an attic.
The single flame. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's quality children's programming, which is
Why
better.
can't we do a podcast about Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I'm sure that it does. Somebody out there does an Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast. We should do a crossover. Somebody get at us.
The Midnight Society. Anyways.
That's definitely the name of that podcast. Like 1,000%. The Midnight Pod Society.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Kaboom.
So, God, this movie is so bad. It starts with a previously on Halloween montage where they do the last 5 minutes of the fourth movie.
Which is interesting because we talked about that, being a thing with the other Halloween movie we did this month, where it's like it literally just picks up where the other one ended. Except this one is dumber because it does that and makes you rewatch the last 5 minutes of the movie. And then immediately it cuts to 1 year later so that the actress in the movie can be a year older than she was. That's with the purpose of it. But like, one, no audience would have given a shit. And two, Michael was just in a coma being tended to by a woodsman for a year?
Yeah. Like,
a year.
What? His muscles should be atrophied. Like,
yes.
Was he giving him IV fluids? Like, what? That's not how bodies work.
I have no idea. It does, like, if someone is unconscious for a year, there's a person whose job it is just to keep their muscles from atrophying, has to like flex and move their legs and move their hips and rotate their ankles and do all of these things. And like, fine, it's a horror movie. You're right. We're overthinking it. Fine. How did this person, was he just like pulling his mouth open and pouring food into it? Like, I'll give you all the leeway in the world. Like, obviously it's not medical science. They're not going to be like, fine, I'll give you all of that. How did he feed him? How did he put water into his body?
Yeah, so the first draft, I did some research just because I needed something to do while this garbage movie was happening. And apparently in like the first draft, this guy was a witch doctor kind of figure, and Michael was dead. And so he brought Michael back to life.
Right.
1 year later.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I was like, why did we... What? Like, but he's the one who gave him the wrist tattoo of the thorn. Like, it made more sense. It wasn't just like, oh, here's a thing that's definitely always been there. And also, He was in a coma for a year.
Yeah, if you're gonna do this whole cult thing, and I don't think you should, but if you're gonna do this whole, don't do that. But if you're gonna do that, then Michael should have been found and resurrected, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, by the person who was in the cult, and then he gets like set off on the rampage. Like that's a much better explanation for what happens next in this movie.
Instead of the friggin' Michael Myers lazy river action figure with pina colada accessory.
Pina colada accessory?
He like crawls into a river and just like lazily floats down the rapids, and I was just like, he's basically at Blizzard Beach. He's as scary as a tourist at Blizzard Beach right now.
That is a water park in Florida, in case anyone out there is missing the reference. So, the other thing that sucks about this movie is Danielle Harris is a pretty good child actor. Not amazing, but like a solid hand, which is more than you can say.
She's the best child actress in 80s horror.
Oh, for sure. Easily. But I'm saying like all time, I don't think she's like a Mount Rushmore child actor. But as we've said on the show, child actors are hard to get good ones. It's hard to have consistent performances out of them. It's a challenging job, and it's hard for children to do it, period. Like any job, because again, they're children. Why would you take a little girl who's basically holding her own with Donald Pleasance, who at this point in his career is just like screaming and eating the scenery, like literally just taking bites out of the set while he's on it. That's how hard he's chewing the scenery.
Yeah.
She's holding her own with him through a whole movie, and they're like, you know what? How about for the first 45 minutes of this movie, she just has seizures and she can't speak anymore? Like, what kind of a person comes up with that idea and has several other people be like, yeah, no, I'm on board. That's a good use of the person that we have managed to cast.
You want to know what's really funny? If I go to page 2 of my notes, I wrote, Danielle Harris can act. Why are they doing this to her?
Right. She has to do, like, bad seizure wiggling and, like, twitch her eyes around and wiggle around on a bed and do like just like the mashed potato basically. That's all she gets to do. It's like
just like that we had the exact same thought of like, poor Danielle Harris.
So stupid, but it's also stupid. Like, yes, I feel bad for Danielle Harris, but I also feel bad for me because this sucks and I watched it and like so did other people.
And like what really pisses me off is that they ended the fourth one with Jamie stabbing her mother, presumably to death. And I was like, oh, that's a cool setup for, is she evil? Is she Michael's sidekick? Is he controlling her? Like, there's stuff you can go with in that movie. And apparently, from what I read or heard, Mustafa Akkad was the guy who was like, no, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to make a regular Michael movie again.
Right.
And I was like, wow, like, that would have been cool.
Even if it was just the Myers bloodline is tainted and now Loomis is like trying to commit another child into, he's like, you didn't listen to me at the last one, listen to me about this one, and like that's what we're doing. It's still better. Like, it's still a better movie than this one, and that's a bad movie I'm describing, for the record. I'm describing a bad movie.
Good one.
No.
I mean, unless it was sort of like Omen-y, where Damien is like not like, people don't believe he's evil, some people do think he's evil, like if it was that kind of situation. But yeah, like seeing Danielle Harris be manipulative, charming little precocious girl, but like secretly murdering people or like covering up Michael Myers murders, like that is a movie I would rather watch.
I would even go so far as to say I would rather watch a movie that takes place entirely in the mental hospital where Loomis is evaluating her, and then like he keeps telling people, oh my God, like she's going to murder everyone. She's just like Michael. She's got no life in her eyes, da-da-da-da. And they're like, you're an idiot. And then the last half of the movie is like literally a child running around with a knife and stabbing orderlies. Like, that's a better movie.
Cult of Chucky?
Yeah, that's a better movie than this. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid movie, this is.
Yeah, it's so... And, it's just bad decisions compounded with dumb decisions compounded with rushed production. Like, why?
Right.
Why is Tina in this movie? I swear to God.
I was literally going to say, okay, all right, let's do some, let's put let's pause. I'll give that to you in just a moment.
Can't.
So let's do let's do a little bit of what we're supposed to do on this podcast and then get back to that. So she's having all these seizures. We're at the hospital. She's having a really bad seizure, and they're like, oh, well, she can't breathe. We're going to have to give her a tracheotomy, which doesn't make any sense because I don't know anything about medicine. And I'm like, if someone is having a seizure so bad that their throat is closed, they probably need some sort of medical attention that's not just
Like
cutting
intubate.
their throat open. Yeah, right. Do a thing that's not just slice your throat open with a scalpel.
But luckily, crazy old Loomis shows up. I effing love Crazy Loomis. And by the 5th movie, he's just like balls to the wall, full tilt, pants on head, backwards, crazy. He's like, don't save her life, she'll stabilize.
There's even a moment where Tina, who we talked about just for a second there, looks at him and is like, you are literally a disgusting monster. Get away from me. And it's the only good part of her character in the whole movie.
Basically. So Rachel is back from the 4th movie, who was basically our Laurie Strode stand-in. She was like virginal and smart and capable and like really like had a strong will to survive. And what they did to her in this movie was kick her in the back of the knees.
I don't even know why she's in this movie at all. And the actress thought she was going to be in the movie, and then they just killed her.
Yeah. Well, apparently in one version, the first version of the script, Rachel had the Tina part that was much bigger, and Tina was Rachel and died in the first 5 minutes. But they wanted to show that no one was safe in this movie, not even Rachel, and so they stabbed her with scissors.
But nobody cares about Rachel.
I mean, I care a little bit, only in so much that like I've already watched her for a whole movie, so like I understand her relationship with Danielle Harris, and like I get her as a character. Like, you spent a full movie establishing who this person was and like making me like feel something about her, and then you were like, hey, what if we replaced her with a girl who just doesn't shut up?
It's really bad, you guys. It's really not good. And also, I don't understand, like, fine, that's the method you're going with. I think it's stupid, but fine. Tina, like, barely cares about Jamie. She certainly gives a small amount of attention to her, but the second that she can blow off hanging out with this kid and go to a party and try to get laid, she's like, later, which I don't think the Rachel character would have done.
No, not at all. And like the other weird, I'll steal a joke from the Dead Meat YouTube channel. I'll give credit where credit is due. There's like the big moment where Jamie starts talking again is when she says Tina's name, and it's like, oh wow, how touching, your foster sister's kind of friend. Like,
right.
Why do I care? Why do you two have a relationship? Why do I care about this relationship? Tina wasn't in the 4th movie, which means she wasn't friends with Rachel before a year ago.
Right. So this person who is a relatively new addition to your life and only knows you as a solid mute, like, how much relationship are you possibly having with this person?
None. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Tina has the brain capacity to communicate as well as someone who's mute, so...
No, I mean, certainly she could, like, write notes and stuff. I'm just saying, like, I don't imagine Tina as having a huge, long conversation with a mute child.
No, not at all. But she doesn't shut up, so... Also, so Tina's entrance is with the dog that we know is going to die because Michael Myers kills dogs.
Yes.
And they give her a Halloween costume. And I was like, Jamie wants to celebrate Halloween this year?
Yeah, it's real weird.
I would be like, no, there's going to be a solid 5-year ban in my personal life on Halloween after what happened last year.
You know what? I am just telling people we're religious. Like,
Yeah.
we're just one of those religions that thinks Halloween is the actual devil, and that's the end of it.
I don't
Like,
care which
sorry.
one, you pick which one, I'm that one. Also, maybe Jamie shouldn't be recuperating in Haddonfield where everyone thinks she's the devil.
Yeah, that's probably a wise idea. There are many,
Send her
many...
to Chicago. You're in Illinois.
Send her to literally anywhere. Like, just drive into Canada and claim asylum. Just do something. So we're skipping ahead a little bit here to where these cops are introduced. They introduce these two bumbling idiot cops, which Wikipedia tells me is supposed to be an homage to Last House on the Left, and maybe it is.
I've never
But-
seen Last House on the Left, but from what I understand, it's like a brutal murder violent movie.
Yes.
So I don't know
So
where these sound effects come in.
So I was so flabbergasted by this that I took to like looking up scenes from Last House on the Left because I have also not watched it. I really don't enjoy torture in movies. Like it's not a thing. It's not that I find it like too scary. It's just not a thing I really want to watch. I don't get a lot
It's
of
not
joy out of it.
enjoyable.
Yeah. And so, like, if that's your thing, cool. I'm not judging you for liking it. I've never watched it. It's just one of the things I don't care for, so I've never watched it. So I pulled up a bunch of scenes, and I did see that, like, there is some kind of slapstick comedy with these cops. It's not like yuck, 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 Three Stooges level, but it's a little bit of physical. And anyway, in these, to be clear, out of context scenes watched on YouTube on a computer screen, but there's no, like, boing noises. And these cops, it's just straight up cartoon noises, to the point where I was like, so this movie is streaming on Shudder, which you can get a free trial for, and has some decent fun stuff for Halloween right now that I've been watching. But I recommend The Canal, by the way, which is also streaming on there. It's really freaky, although there's a really intense scene at the end of it that's pretty dark. But anyway, I was like, okay, wait, something's wrong. And I backed it up, and then I heard it again, and it's just this like, like, what? Who? This is utterly incomprehensible as a choice. Who thought this up? Who approved it? How many other people didn't object? Like, how did Donald fucking Pleasance go to see this movie at the premiere? Because he probably showed up for that, right? Like, I imagine that And how did he not be like, what the hell is with the cartoon noises? Like, somebody object.
Well, apparently in every movie Donald Pleasance is in, he's only ever been there for a few days. Like, he's not there. It's not like they condense all of his shooting days into like a week or so.
To be fair, he's like 70 years old when they're making this movie. So like,
arguably the biggest star in any of these movies.
But like, even at the beginning, like the first Halloween movie, he's 61 years old. So by the time this rolls around, he's 70. It's like, I get it. Like, even if he wasn't the biggest star, which he is, he actually gets billed before the title of the movie. It's Donald Pleasance in Halloween.
John
5.
Carpenter's Halloween. There's a lot of names.
John Carpenter is nowhere
Mustafa
near
Akkad
this.
presents Donald Pleasance in John Carpenter's Halloween.
The John Carpenter is baloney, but the rest of that is actually how the title of this movie plays.
No, it's it. Oh, this movie.
This movie is literally Mustafa Akkad presents Donald Pleasance in Halloween 5.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the first one.
No, he gets above the title billing in this.
In this one. So I imagine. Well, and apparently, the scene towards the end where Donald Pleasance is just yelling into the woods, the misty woods. He told the actor playing Michael Myers, who was like, "Look, I need you to stand in the woods." And the guy was like, "What?" And he's like, "I won't see you, but I need to know you're there." So that's why he's actually in the woods.
Wowzers.
He also thought Jamie should have been evil.
He did. And the note you're talking about him having, like, he was only on set a brief time. He apparently gave his trailer to her because her mom kept bitching about the size of her trailer, which is like, oh, that's a bummer. She had one of those mamas, huh?
Oh, I didn't see. I watched the. So there's a documentary about the making of Halloween 1, and then there's a documentary about 4, 5, and 6. And I've watched them, and that's not the story Danielle Harris told.
Oh, what's her version of it?
That she and Billy had she had a small trailer, and Billy had to use it for school. So they would use it for school days, and so Donald Pleasance, when he left, was like, "Don't take down my trailer. Give it to Danielle Harris because she's the star of the movie now." And use it for that way. It's a big enough trailer for her and for a school unit.
It's in the ballpark of being the same story, I guess.
Yeah, there was no mention of her mom bitching.
There's also a note on the Wikipedia that Danielle Harris and the guy who played Michael in this movie were like best buds and hung out off the set. And the way it's written on this Wikipedia article is such a casual way to talk about a 12-year-old girl and a man in his mid to late 50s just like palling around. That
Is he that old?
The guy who played Michael, yeah, he's at least 50.
Oh.
Born in 1950, this movie came out in 89. Sorry, a 40-year-old man. I apologize. A 40-year-old man. She's 12.
It's still weird, yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, just a casual hang sesh between a 40-year-old man and a 12-year-old. You know, all those cool, fun things they have in common.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm not suggesting, by the way,
No.
I am not suggesting, I'm making fun of the person who wrote the sentence on Wikipedia. It is entirely possible that the two of them, because they're in every scene together, would like take breaks and hang out, and this guy just like shot the shit with this kid, because what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I think she said she made in the documentary, she mentioned that a lot of the breaks and stuff were just everyone. She was like, oh, he broke character instantly. Like as soon as the camera stopped rolling, he was stopping Michael Myers, and he was very clear to be like, "Hi, I'm an actor. Like this is like, please don't be scarred for life, little girl."
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these Keystone cops are there. They're like checking out the Myers house. They of course don't find anything except the dog, which has gone missing.
He shows up.
Yes, the dog shows up. And they're like, "Hey, we found the dog! Yeehaw!"
They also do the weird, like, finish each other's sentences thing.
Yes.
They are two characters from a completely different movie. You know what they are? They're those friggin' Killer Clowns ice cream truck boys.
Yes, they really are the
But
ice
as
cream
cops.
truck boys from Killer Clowns. Yes.
Can't remember their
indeed.
names.
The something brothers. I can't remember which.
They're not important. I wish they had died in Killer Clowns. I wish these cops died sooner. And then later, we get a cop who's like a good guy. And I was like, why couldn't he have been the cop for the whole time?
Right. The guy from Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Oh, I don't, it's been a minute.
He has like a real bit. I was like, this man's voice is very distinctive. He has kind of a Nixon-y jowl speak. The cop, the other cop. And I was like, I know that voice. Like that voice is in my brain. And I looked it up and I'm 99% sure it's Ace Ventura.
Yeah, but he's like really, in the end, he's like very sweet to Jamie, and he's like, look, we're going to get out of here. Don't worry. I'll keep you safe. You've been a very brave girl. Let's get you somewhere safe. And I was like, why couldn't I have followed him for the last hour of the movie?
Right.
Instead of Whoopee Cushion and the sound machine over here.
Yeah, exactly. They're like two bad shock jock morning hosts.
Oh my God, they are Crazy Ira and the douche.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that's exactly what that dynamic that they have is like one guy being the like, you're so funny, guy, and the other one saying just like nonsense.
Yeah.
So inside the house, the older sister of Jamie is murdered by Michael Myers, like you do.
With no pants on.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's pretty common for a Michael Myers death.
Yeah, but like she imagine if they did that to Laurie Strode in part 2. If they were like, look, she was the strong final girl, and now she's gonna wander around with no pants and get stabbed.
Yeah,
like,
no, it sucks.
Come on.
You're not wrong. It sucks hard. And then the friend arrives and takes the record off, which is like playing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I rewrote this movie in my head because Rachel gets murdered, and then Tina comes over and is annoying and the worst and lets herself in. And she starts like calling out for Rachel being dumb all throughout the house. And she's like, well, I guess Rachel's gone. Like she went on vacation with her parents or whatever. And I was like, what should have happened was Rachel earlier heard the crash upstairs, was too smart to go investigate, and ran out the door. Tina comes over to the now empty house, thinks Rachel's not home, is like, well, this place is to myself. Michael stabs her. Then we follow Rachel for the rest of the movie.
I love it. That's such a better movie.
Even if you then killed Rachel 2 minutes later, I don't care. Like, that's what should have happened based on the character you established.
Right. And then you don't have this bizarre thing where like Tina is Jamie's caretaker for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. So Rachel's dead. So Tina and Sammy, the two girls that we have to pretend to care about for the next hour, go off to do shopping or something while the Shape is in the house. And Sammy admits, she's like, yeah, me and what's-his-face are gonna bone on Rachel's satin sheets. And I was like, you're a terrible friend.
Yeah, no, your friend just died, and now
We
you're
don't
gonna...
know that.
Your friend's not home, so you're gonna do it on her sheets is also gross.
On her satin sheets. That's rude.
It's indeed rude. That's like the friend that your roommate went out of town in college and you were like, is it cool if my friend sleeps there? And they're like, yeah, no problem. And then that friend proceeds to just like dump a gallon of ice cream all over it, or or ice cream, aka beer.
Yeah, you know.
I wouldn't know anything about that. I was a very good boy who didn't drink before his 21st birthday, but like somebody
you were still
doing
in college
something
at
like
21.
that. I didn't have roommates with single beds to put guests in
fair.
at age
You're
21.
right.
I was in a shitty apartment that had a crappy couch.
You're right.
I was talking about like the dorm sharing etiquette.
No, I get it now.
Anyway, fast forward to Loomis berating Jamie about Michael, and like,
God, I love crazy, dangerous Loomis.
you want to talk about guys who are in a different movie than the rest of the movie? Loomis is borderline that with how insane he is in this.
I wish I had a good list of like actors who were in a different movie than everyone else, and then just put them all in a movie. It's like Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad, Loomis in this movie, and I can't think of any others, but like that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Unhinged Loomis. He is like everything I want out of a late stage Halloween movie. But it's amazing to go
Yes.
from understated, quiet, everything is evil and we have to prevent evil, to like,
Jamie, what are you doing?
You like almost kissed Arnold
Schwarzenegger.
territory.
Yes, that's what he's like, because it's that over the top.
You know what I just realized? We're gonna derail for a second again. Why was there never a Halloween movie about like Loomis has moved into the old Myers house to keep everyone away from the old Myers house and becomes the like crotchety old man who yells at kids to get off the lawn? Like, what? That seems like the most natural progression.
Basically, Loomis as the old guy in that Trick or Treat movie.
Oh, Monster House?
No.
Oh, you mean the movie Trick or Treat.
Yes. But Loomis is the old guy with the, the
Old Man
third
Krieg.
story. Yeah. No, I would like that movie. Literally any idea you and I have come up with in the past, I don't know, 30 minutes or so recording this have been better ideas for Halloween 5 and 6 than what exists as Halloween 5 and 6. Like, Loomis takes the house over and refuses to vacate it and makes it into like a Home Alone-esque trap house for Michael Myers is such a more entertaining movie than this that I can't even begin to talk about how excited that would be.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I haven't seen it yet, and neither of you, but I have a hunch might be part of what we're in for with this Halloween sequel.
100%.
If I don't get Michael slipping on some micro machines, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed.
Or Lori throwing paint cans down the staircase on a rope. Although part of me does wish that like Donald Pleasance was alive for 2018 and like Lori visits him in the home to like tell him about her plan.
That would be great. That would be super, super great. I really hope there's some passing little homage to him somewhere in this movie. I have to imagine there will be, but I really need there to be just like something, like a framed photo of him and
Lori.
I was gonna say Jamie Lee Curtis, but yes, like even if it's something like from back, like off camera, like from like around the set of one of the previous sequels where they got like their arm around each other, like that's what I need.
Yeah, I need that. Because obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is the Donald Pleasance of the new Halloween.
For sure. But now all I can think about is Home Alone
Screaming
Halloween
at kids
edition.
to go
and I
inside
just,
on Halloween
it's
night.
everything I ever
firing
wanted.
guns
Like, I want,
into windows.
yeah, and Loomis like making booby traps. Are you kidding? That would be so good. Like he has the knife on the counter, but it's actually wired, so it's electrified. So when Michael goes to grab for the kitchen knife, he gets like zapped,
Yes, I'm here for it.
and then mask hair stands up. And
See, if you're gonna do like the stupid noises, like cartoon noises, go all the way and do that stuff.
you cannot put a
Honey
cartoon
and Feather, Michael's mask.
Yeah. You cannot put boing in a non-comedy movie and have anyone not immediately get taken out of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I know this movie is stupid, but it is not like a slapstick children's movie, which is the only movie those sounds are allowed in. And even then, sparingly, please.
Yeah, yeah.
So the other problem this movie has is I don't remember if the Thorn stuff is introduced in 4. I'm pretty sure it is because that's the Thorn
Not really.
trilogy. But okay.
No, it's not. It is only mentioned. The wrist tattoo is here for the first time. The Man
Okay.
in Black was never in the script for 5. They just had him. They made him up on set to like
Okay.
blur out any issues they had. That's
Okay.
why you never see his face because it was played by like 4 different people apparently.
Well, here's the issue. So we're like, I don't know, 40 minutes into this movie maybe at this point, and a bus pulls into town, and a man gets off with like ridiculous shoes and ridiculous belt buckle, wearing all black, and like I know it's the Man in Black because I've seen the other movie he's in, and I'm a dork and I know all about these movies, but that's all the introduction you're given. There's like some loose dialogue talking about Thorn in this movie, but as far as we know, like that essentially just all those actions turned this movie into like the prequel comic book that they came out and they expect you to read before the movie came out, and you're like, yeah okay, I'll get right on that.
So apparently, what happened was, as they were writing, as they were making the movie, if they had any issues or like things that didn't make sense, they stuck the Man in Black in there and said that's for the people who make the sixth movie to figure out. Because when the guy wrote the sixth movie, he contacted all the people who wrote the fifth one, and not one of them could tell him anything about anything.
Of course
because they
couldn't.
didn't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so dumb. Anyway, back from this guy getting off the bus, we're like looking through a house.
It's the fake Myers house. Stop trying to tell me this is the Myers house.
Right. And they talk about this in the like making of, apparently, or they go into some detail about being like, oh, we couldn't find a house just like it, so we cast this other house because it had more rooms to play with. And it's like, you can't cast more rooms to play with. I know how many rooms are in that house. There's like 7 rooms tops, maybe 8. Like, and then an attic and a basement, I'll give you. I don't think we've seen those, but it's like there's a couple bedrooms, there's a few bedrooms upstairs, there's a living room, there's a TV
bathroom
room
upstairs.
Yeah, and a kitchen and another bathroom maybe. But like I've been in this house a whole lot. You can't just start adding rooms to it.
It's like how they keep changing Michael's friggin' mask. Like in this movie, how the eye holes are really big and have mesh all of a sudden. Like I've spent a lot of time with this mask. You can't keep changing it.
So I think that is part of what I was talking about earlier, saying that this is basically a Friday the 13th movie. One of the things that many people, and I don't say this with any judgment, it's just that I'm not one of these people, like about the Friday the 13th movies is there's some subtle variation in Jason's costume and mask and whatnot, and people like get into discussing those differences and what they like and dislike and all that. And if you do, cool, like that's fine. I get nerdy about stuff like that too. That's not one of mine. But I think that's like part of the idea here is we're gonna go a little Friday the 13th-y because like there's a whole sequence later where they're at that party that's just a Friday the 13th movie. So I almost wonder if the mask thing is like, let's give the fans something to talk about. It's a new Michael mask.
Yeah, but like I always thought in Friday the 13th that all the mask changes were continuity, like abiding. Like Michael got a hatchet to the face, so now he's got a chunk missing. Like it got progressively dirtier each movie because he was just the grossest.
It's sort of like that, but I'm pretty sure the patterns of the holes change, and like the shape of the eye hole probably changes a little bit. And like there's the one Friday the 13th movie where the killer's not Jason and the colors on the mask are blue instead of red. So I think there's a little more to it than what you're describing, but certainly that is part of it. Yeah, it got older and more beat up as the movies went along.
There's a scene where Donald Pleasance is wandering through the Myers house, the fake Myers house, hashtag
yes.
Not my Myers house, and he opens a laundry chute and looks in like he's expecting Michael to be there, and I was like, what if? Like, I wish Michael Myers had been like curled up in this laundry chute, like, you got me.
I'm just, the way your body language for like he opens it and he peeks in, like the way you tilt your head, I suddenly saw, the really famous shot of like, I think it's from the ground looking up at Michael with the knife from the first movie. He's like over the railing.
In the staircase.
It's like that, like Michael in the staircase shot, except he's like holding onto the laundry chute with one hand and he's got the knife in the other, and he's like cheesing it, like, oh, you got me. Like, ah.
It's like the scary movie version of the Scream mask, but it's like open with the tongue out. Yeah.
But also, like, he's dangling there, and then, like, Loomis peeks in and is like, oh, I got you. And then it's like, quick stabs upward or whatever. Yeah. But I also love the part where he's, like, searching this house and a rat jumps out, and Loomis seems to legitimately Donald Pleasance seems to be legitimately frightened there.
Yeah. See, I feel like every one of these movies has a space for the line, it's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Absolutely.
And I was like, this is the moment where it should be there.
The rat turns to the camera.
No, Donald Pleasance could say it, like, to himself, because he's clearly
like,
lost his rocker.
The rat's like, everyone's entitled to one good scare. And it scampers off.
What is it, Rizzo?
Yeah. It's. I would watch Rizzo in a Halloween movie. Are you kidding me?
I would watch all of the Muppets, and I want Sam Eagle as Donald Pleasance.
Oh, I think Rizzo could be a very good Loomis.
Maybe like a young Loomis. I don't know. There's something about Sam Eagle that makes me go, yeah, he's the one I want brandishing guns all over this movie and screaming
Yeah.
at children.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
We go back to Tina and her garbage one-dimensional greaser boyfriend for some reason. Like, he's a greaser?
He really is a greaser. It's like, what era are you making this movie for? It's like Mustafa Akkad saw Grease 2. Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, that's a good movie. Let's just do that movie.
But luckily, like, Michael scratches the hell out of his precious car, and he gets out to like, beat him up, and Michael just one hand on the throat, and then a 1-2 punch of, like, rake to the face. It's a great kill.
See, this is another reason why I think this is a Friday the 13th movie, is Michael's, like, improvising with random weapons. Michael pretty much only uses the knife before
his
this. Yeah, but he's not, like, running around grabbing what's available. That's a Jason move.
I mean, he kind of did that in Halloween, too.
A little bit, yeah, I guess.
He used
But
the
it's-
hot tub, he used the syringes, he used the IV.
That's true. He did do a lot more of that, now that you say that. But it doesn't seem like Michael to me.
Yeah. It's not classic Michael. It's like Crystal Michael.
So, I don't know if we've met this kid before in the movie, but we haven't talked about him on the podcast. But there's a kid with a really bad stutter who's, like, definitely has a crush on Jamie, but they're both children.
Yeah.
And so he gives Danielle Harris this, like, weird gift. And, like, the person who's getting it with her is, like, having to do that thing where they pretend to be really excited over a gift for a child, which I always enjoy watching.
Yeah. And you think it's going to come up later. It doesn't.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be like a Deus Ex stuttering kid gift, but no, it is not. Chekhov's stuttering kid gift, I guess that would be, not Deus Ex.
Yeah.
But in any case, it doesn't show up again, which is very odd. And then we cut to... It's a
Halloween costume contest.
Yes, well, it's a pageant specifically, which is a weird phrase for it, but okay.
It's also forced pairs.
Yeah, they're like talking about them like they're couples costumes, and everybody else seems to be a couples costume, except Jamie and this little boy, who are also seemingly the youngest people involved in this contest, and the whole thing is confusing to me.
Jamie's a princess, and Billy is a sparkle pirate.
I would call it a sparkle pirate, yes.
I don't know what he's supposed to be because he never says it. Like, he's a little kid. He should have had one line of like, "Do you like my blank costume?" Because little kids love to tell you what they're dressed as for Halloween.
Yeah. Speaking of, I just read this article today where in Baltimore Magazine they interviewed a person who owns a vintage shop about like putting together a great Halloween costume, which is like an article right up my alley. And one of the things this thrift shop person said was, oh, it's, you know, you don't have to be super obvious about it. Like, some of the most fun on Halloween is people being like, and what are you? And explaining it. And I was like, that is the least fun thing to do on Halloween. It's just explain your esoteric joke to 400 people. No,
That is
thank
the
you.
worst.
If your Halloween costume needs like a get it, then it's a bad Halloween costume. Just from the standpoint of you're gonna spend your whole night explaining it, because spoiler alert, no one is going to get it.
No, not at all. Like, my Halloween costume this year, I was like a little nervous, but then I was like, no, I feel like people will get the reference visually.
I once went as Fay Ray in King Kong, like with a fake gorilla hand and a dress and a wig and stuff. And it was like very obviously like a blonde woman in a dress getting picked up by a gorilla, except, you know, it was me with a beard in there. And people kept being like, what is it? And I would be like, King Kong. And they'd be like, oh, you were a stunt double? And I was like, well, that's more clever than what I thought of. Yeah, but that's not, like, no one is going to get that. You added a layer to it, is what you've done.
Yeah, I'm the deepest cut you can get.
Yeah.
I'm Fay Ray's stunt double on King Kong.
You know, from that classic 1933 film.
When they definitely didn't have stunt doubles, they were just like, give her Quaaludes and put her on the building.
Yes, they actually strung Fay Ray up from a crane arm on top of the Empire State Building. That's how they shot that.
You know what I mean.
So, confusingly, Tina's crappy boyfriend is named Mike. And so
It's so funny.
when Michael Myers rolls up to pick up Tina, she's like, Mike, let me in. Mike. And you believe for a second that he's probably enjoying that because he's a crazy person.
Yeah, I guess.
And she gets let into the car and is like, "Oh, you wore the mask I bought you. I'm so glad." And it's this like hideous troll mask. Like, no man is.
I thought it was like a weird political cartoon, like Nixon or Reagan mask.
It could be. It is genuinely hard to tell, and I'm wondering if they like did that on purpose. But it's not like she asked him to dress. Like, she acts like it was such a hurdle and a burden to get this guy to put the costume on, and it's like a loose-fitting cloak and a mask. It's like they react as if she was here. This is a fully realized Shakespearean-era prince outfit. It's got 4 girdles and 3 corsets, and you can put this on.
And a codpiece and 2 tights.
Yeah, and like here also you need to take sword lessons. Like, it's a very basic ass costume that she's so overjoyed that the boyfriend put on, and I wanted to be like, hey, here's your clue that your boyfriend stinks.
Yeah, your standards are too low, Tina. I mean, you're the worst, so I don't super care, but still.
Yeah. And then she kisses the mask, which is just utterly bizarre. And at this point, Jamie starts having another seizure, and they're like, oh, something's wrong. So Jamie has this vision that Tina's in danger, and she's at a gas station, and she, like, chokes out, like, "Cookie Queen."
It is a 5-minute scene of watching
It's
Danielle
so
Harris
long.
croak out Cookie Woman, big Cookie Woman
Yes.
store.
Yes.
And so we watch 5 minutes of that, and on top of that, everyone knows what the hell that means.
To be fair, once you see the big Cookie Woman, it is hard to forget.
I guess.
But in the minute between her croaking this out, not even a minute, 27 seconds, and Loomis or someone in the room recognizing what she means and rating it to police, Tina, who Michael let get out of the car and go buy cigarettes, which is a weird thing for him to have done, is surrounded by 7 or 8 police cars.
It's so many. It's like pizza delivery speed.
But none of these cops notice that Michael is just sitting in a car right there.
With his mask on.
Yes!
With his real mask on.
Yes, indeed.
This movie is terrible.
And so here's the part where I need to talk about the kayfabe of this movie. Okay?
Go for it.
In the world of this movie, Michael Myers killed his family when he was a child, came back a few years later, tried to kill what we learned was his sister. Didn't succeed at that, I guess, depending on what timeline you go with.
One of the 4.
Right. Then came back again and is now trying to kill a distant relative of his. I guess is his niece. Jamie Lloyd is his niece. She calls him uncle later.
His sister's daughter. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So at this point, this person has come back from the dead on 2 occasions, at least, perhaps 3, killed a whole lot of people, and yet there's still a Michael Myers costume being sold and available at Halloween.
Thank you. I
Like-
had the same question.
This is the literal equivalent of a person dressing up and being like, I'm the Pulse nightclub shooter, or I'm the Columbine kid shooter. Like, if you wore this in public, people
In that town,
Yes,
too. Like, it's not like
yes.
he's some dude in California who's like, oh, far... Like, you
Yuck,
live
yuck,
in the
yuck.
town where all that happened, and you're dressing up like that?
Right.
This happened last year.
Right. It was
A
a year
year
ago.
ago.
Yes. It's very fresh. Like, if you saw someone walking around in that costume, there would definitely be people who tried to fight him, 100%. Like, hey, F you, buddy, have a little bit of respect. Or 2, people would just shun him. No one would think this was like Halloween, gags and nonsense. People would be
Where's
furious.
that drunken mob of men with guns from the second movie?
Right.
To, like, kick his ass.
Yes, absolutely.
When someone in the second movie, which takes place the same night as the first movie, is wearing a Michael Myers costume somehow, it's a gray area.
We decided this in the last episode. Michael gets his mask from the drugstore, so it was just a widely available mask, and their outfits are similar but not the same.
Okay.
This guy, however, is wearing a Michael Myers,
Myers,
one-piece
like,
jumpsuit.
trademark.
Yeah. TM.
The other guy, only other person we've ever seen who isn't Michael Myers wear this jumpsuit, got T-boned by a car into another car and set on fire.
Yes. They had to
And
identify
now-
him by his molars.
Yes, and he was a 17-year-old.
Yes. It's
And now they're just
ridiculous.
like, oh, whatever. And then on top of that, they're like, you know what's a really fun prank? If we pretend that my boyfriend who's dressed up as Michael Myers is trying to kill us in front of the cops.
Right. It's so...
That's how you get shot in the face.
It is indeed.
Or T-boned and set on fire.
Especially from cops this incompetent. Like, you're guaranteeing a shot to the face.
Wait a minute. I'm just realizing now how happy I would have been if they had repeated the Ben Tramer trick from the second movie. Like, and so out of
this
nowhere...
This guy got killed?
Yeah, no, like, specifically out of nowhere gets T-boned by a car that they didn't, like, the audience never saw coming. So he's, like, he's, like, attacking Tina, and all of a sudden a car just comes out of nowhere and T-bones him.
So we jumped ahead a little bit there, but after the vision where Tina gets saved, she goes to visit Jamie. They have, like, a quick, oh, my God, so thank you for saving me. And then Loomis is like, don't leave here. And she's like, I'm going to a party. Bye.
No, Jamie is crying, saying, please don't go. And Tina's like, I have to get boned. Bye, little girl. Even though I already talked about in this movie wanting to go visit you tonight, I have to leave.
Well, she checked that box, to be fair.
Yeah.
She did check that box.
I saw her. And there's this, like... So Loomis stops her, and she's crying. Like, she's clearly upset by Loomis. And then all of a sudden... turns on a dime and is just like, I'm never sensible if I can help it. And that's not me doing a funny bit. That is actually what the movie sounds like.
Right. It's so deeply confusing.
And then Loomis is like, stop her. And the cops are like, on whose authority? Yours or mine? And it's like, hey, yuckity yucks, knock it off. And he's like, well, then go follow her. Like, gee, I'm Sam Loomis. I've watched a lot of people die. I think I know what I'm talking about. Dear God.
I'm borderline a Murder, She Wrote writer at this point. Someone just listen to me already.
Basically, like, I don't understand why no one listens to Loomis. It's like the Ghostbusters 2 thing.
They do. That's the craziest thing, though. In Halloween 2, they do listen to Loomis.
Oh, that's right.
They, like, totally listen to him and take his advice and do all that stuff. And then in this one, they're, like, right back to being like, you're an old coot. What do you know?
Crazy old Maurice. Yeah, it's just, it baffles me because he's literally the only one who's been in every single one of these movies. So why does no one think of him as an authority on what Michael Myers might or might not do?
Right. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we go to this farm party with Tina, and Jamie and the stuttering kid, like, break out of the clinic and go to this farm because the stuttering kid knows where to go. We cut back to the party, and the cops are outside this, like, hugely loud party, and they're like, should we go in there? And it's like, nah, let's sit in the car and play cards instead.
And then they see Michael Myers drive out of a car, and walk up and walk around the house. And they're like, that doesn't seem like a dangerous situation to me.
Well, to be fair, it is kind of astounding that Michael is driving.
He drove in the first one.
I know. But I think maybe the cops just forgot about that. So the kids start, like, sneaking around trying to find a place to fool around. And this is where we get this whole, like, fake Michael sequence that we were just talking about. So we're not going to rehash that. But there's a whole sequence where it's like, oh my God, it's Michael. Just kidding. It's my boyfriend. Oh my God, it's Michael. Just kidding. It's my boyfriend. Like, they do the same gag twice where you think it's Michael and then it isn't. And then you think it's Michael again and it isn't. And it's like, all right, movie, you're just doing Friday the 13th now. Like, this is just verbatim Friday the 13th.
The only way I'm okay with this is if we saw inside Tina and Sammy and the boyfriend plotting this prank, and the boyfriend's like, I'm gonna go take a leak. I'll meet you outside. And then when he goes to the bathroom and Michael kills him.
Yep.
And then goes outside and they think it's a prank and Michael kills them both in front of the cops.
I would like it even better if there was some way that she knew which mask was the boyfriend's, and after Michael stabbed the boyfriend, he took the boyfriend's Michael mask.
Oh, okay. I like that too. But he kept his in his back pocket so he could switch back.
Yeah, why not?
He's a man for the classics.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more fun to be had with that whole dynamic.
Yeah.
I think that's almost what happens in the one with Busta Rhymes, now that I think about it. There's definitely, like...
Oh, there's a fake Michael in that one.
There is and Busta has a Michael mask at one point, and then that might be a plot point from that I'm rehashing. But in any case, it's still more clever than when we get here.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of drunk teenagers, and they find they find a bunch of kittens that don't have a home. And I'm like, you shouldn't be handling drunk kittens, right?
No,
you shouldn't be handling
absolutely
kittens right
not. Absolutely not.
And there's Tina runs off and like leaves the other two alone so they can bone while she looks for the cats. And she spends 5 minutes finding the cat and then picks it up and starts to walk away and like looks dead ass into the camera and goes, "What am I doing? I hate cats." And I was like, what is happening?
Why is this line of dialogue in your movie? Why? Why is it there?
Why are the cats in your movie at all? They also apparently, Tina is wearing a French maid costume with a cape for some reason, and her friend Sammy is dressed as a devil. And apparently, Tina was supposed to be the devil, but they were like, "No, we can't have our heroine dressed like the devil. People won't identify with her." Cut to opening night of the movie where people applauded when Tina got stabbed.
Yeah, of course they did, because she's a terrible actor and a terrible character, and this movie stinks.
It's so bad.
Here's what else stinks in this movie. The sex scene is like 40 hours long.
It's too long. And there's a really weird part in the documentary where the girl who plays Sammy was like, yeah, the director called me and the guy into his hotel room the night before so we could choreograph the scene. And I was like,
he is French.
yeah, I get. So she immediately followed up with like, it was not, she was like, and she's like, it wasn't, it was very clinical of like, okay, do this angle because we're going to come out from this side, so you have to be shaped like this. And I was like, I can see this weirdo French director being like, look, I need to tell you exactly what to do because you don't know how to have sex.
You Americans. That was a terrible. I started to do French and I was like, I'm not going to do French.
And you just went somewhere. You like threw a dart at a world map. And you're like,
it was just like a weird sound that came out of my body. But I could totally see it being like in this very stereotypical way of like, oh no, you people don't know how to do this. I will show you how to make love. You come to my dressing room. We will show you how we do this.
This sounds like a weird Muppet character.
Yes, it was sort of Pepe.
Thank you. I was like, what's his name? Pepe. Pepe the Prawn. But so I also realized watching this that there was no need for a sex scene in this movie because so Sammy is separated from the boyfriend and she's like, I'm not going to come find you. And you see a boot step on a piece of wood and it cracks. And you're like, oh, it's Michael in the barn now because her boyfriend was dressed like Michael. So there's that moment. And then she turns around and someone's dressed like Michael Myers. And she's like, oh, it's you. And he like menacingly steps towards her with a knife in the air and like keeps stepping. And she's freaking out because she thinks, oh, wait, I'm in danger.
Yeah.
And she screams as he like pretends stabs her. And then it's the boyfriend. And she's like, you're a jerk. And then they have sex. And I'm like, oh no, like, oh no.
Yeah.
If you do that to me, we're not boning. I'm kicking you in the dick and leaving.
Yeah. And also, this is a real, again, in the kayfabe of the movie, he is dressed like an actual person who murdered children. Like, he's actually dressed like a child murderer. Why is that sexy? Why is that even a little bit sexy? Come on, movie.
She should have actually been stabbed there. And then Michael can pick up the pitchfork and just pitchfork the boyfriend when he walks in the room. Like, that's what it should have been. We didn't need the sex scene.
Right. I will say, tiny amount of credit that they do bring a condom into the equation.
They do. It's very clear that she's like, I don't have anything. And he's like, I do. And she's like, all right, I guess.
Yeah. It was like, I was like really afraid that we were going to get and they do that a lot in these movies where it's like, oh, the accidentally is the good guy where it's like, I don't have anything, and him being like, I don't care, and then Michael stabs him with something. I was really, and him pulling a condom out, I was like, oh, okay, all right, movie, good for you. Well done,
it's like,
thumbs up.
That happened in one of the Friday movies that we covered. That someone specifically was like, hang on, and like pulled a condom out.
Yes.
Like held it up to the camera, put their hand behind it so it would focus on it like a beauty guru.
It's like, don't worry, I'm protected.
Wink. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get the joke that they were making, but I was like,
oh,
you know
I
what?
didn't even think about that being a joke. I like that.
Oh, yeah, no, that's 100% what's going on there. But I'm just glad they're showing these people having safe sex in the movie.
Yeah.
Just because you're going to get killed by a psychopath with a knife doesn't mean you can't make a good decision first.
Yeah. I also always forget how, like, prominent Michael's breathing is in all of these movies until I'm watching them. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he breathes a lot.
So kills these two people, both the boyfriend and the girl. Then Tina finds their dead friends, and then she freaks out and goes like running outside, where she stumbles upon the dead Keystone cops. And then a car like lights turn on, and it's Michael, and Michael's like chasing him in a car, her on foot, and behind them is the two children. So it's just this like weird train of chasing.
Here's the confusing part, but because I don't understand anyone's running path, because at the end of the chase scene, the kids are somehow in front of both of them, and Michael just drives to them instead of to Tina. So it gets very weird.
Right.
But also, we glossed over the fact that all these teenagers are going to go skinny dipping in Midwest late October.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
that's a
California writer.
That's a cold dip you're taking there.
I get that you're from California and don't understand how the Midwest works, but anything after Nevada, it's cold in October.
Yes. Midwest October is like late December on the East Coast, basically. Like, it's chilly there.
Yeah. No one's going skinny dipping.
Unless there was a hot tub.
Yes, but they talk about, like, the springs, which makes me think it's, like, natural. So, their mind, they're like, oh, Midwest people, like, they swim in, like, lakes and springs and stuff.
I bet
Send
it was
them there.
I bet it was the writer being a West Coaster being like, oh, they just went to a hot spring, as if that was a thing that is just, like, easily attainable.
Yeah.
So there's a cool car explosion after Michael is chasing Tina, and you think
After
that
entirely too much driving and running.
yes, a lot too much of that. But the car blows up and it's pretty cool looking. And then Michael chases Jamie, and
There actually is a really cool use of, because everything in this movie is too long, the car explodes and the horn is going off. And as Tina is running to Jamie, and Jamie is screaming Tina's name, and I was like, God, this horn is annoying. Like, I get that that's actually probably what would have happened, but like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden the car horn stops, and I was like, oh no, now I'm into this use, because Michael was leaning on, okay, I'm here, movie, you got me back in.
it was a cool little way to play with sound. I thought was really fun. So Loomis shows up, and he grabs the two kids after Tina has been killed, and he's like, Jamie, you have to help me catch him. And she, of course, wants nothing to do with that because she's a child and he's an absolute murderer. And Loomis, to her eyes, is probably not that much better.
I was going to say, at this point in the series, Loomis is just as dangerous as Michael. Like, running into Loomis is not necessarily saving grace.
No, I agree. And so Loomis gives the kids off to the cops and is like, take them out of here. And then he starts the scene you mentioned earlier where he's just like screaming into the woods like, Michael, come home, Michael. You won't do it. I dare you to do it.
It's almost like that scene in Wizard of Oz when Dorothy's looking in the crystal ball in the witch's tower, and Aunt Em is like, come home, Dorothy. Dorothy, come home. We're scared and looking for you.
You know you want to, Michael.
Now I just want to see, like, Judy Garland looking in the crystal ball, and it's Sam Loomis in there being like, come home. Come home, Dorothy.
Yes, I'm into it. So for some reason, the cops take Jamie back to back to the Myers house, which I don't.
That was Donald Pleasance's plan. So
Yes.
you had to infer a lot about this movie.
But why do the cops think that this is a good? Like, why would the cops not be like, hell no, we're taking this child somewhere safe? Like,
So you know how like the president can like declare, be like, I'm controlling the army now because it's a state of emergency. That's Sam Loomis and the Haddonfield Police Force.
I don't think you got that right vis-a-vis American politics, but I'll let you have it for the sake of this
the
analogy.
idea.
Yes.
Yeah, Sam Loomis is like, look.
I just want the audience to know that I know that what you said is gobbledygook nonsense. I don't need you to explain it further. The
It's
analogy,
a common trope in movies and film and TV.
Look, the thing that you said makes perfect sense in that it makes no sense whatsoever, but I understand the point you're making.
Yes.
That's I just want them out there listening to know that I know you're full of shit.
But you know what I mean. I need to get the point across.
Exactly. Your point has been made.
So he just basically called a police state, and he's the captain now.
He declared Loomis law.
Yeah, there it is. I was like, there's a word. That's
I'm
the word.
declaring Loomis Law. You're all under my jurisdiction now. We're going to the Myers house, and we're going to fortify it.
I want that.
Somebody
show.
get me micro machines and glass Christmas ornaments. We're going Macaulay Culkin up in this bitch.
cans of paint, pipes.
Ropes. Somebody get a real hot thing to put on a doorknob.
So yeah, Loomis could declare Loomis Law, which is the phrasing I was trying. Martial law. was what I was
Martial
trying to
law,
think of.
yes.
And I could not think of it, so I just gobbledygooked it together as best I could. Loomis Law.
Somebody put some nails through the basement steps already.
Have we iced down all the stairs?
Use the spring water. There's no one skinny dipping this time of year.
It's cold enough to freeze because this is the actual Midwest. It snowed on Halloween one year in Pennsylvania, guys. Like, I don't think Californians understand real weather.
No, I don't think they do.
So yeah, I think he basically, because Loomis says something and the cop's like, there's just, now wait a second. And Loomis is like, there aren't seconds to wait. So he basically was like, here's my plan. Take her to the house. We'll surround it with cops. Maybe she'll have a vision and tell us where he is, or he'll come look for her. Either
Right.
way, like, we'll get him tonight. And so they, like, only light up one window in the house and prop her up in that window like a store mannequin to, like, brush her hair like her sister was doing when she got killed. And they were like, he'll see it.
It's
He'll know what
also
it means.
it's also just another gag from Home Alone.
Oh, yeah!
Somebody put a cardboard cutout on a train, and we'll play rockin' Christmas tunes.
And this is where I mentioned the good cop who's like, hey, Jamie, she's clearly freaked out. And he's like, let's practice our signals. And she does the, like, signal for when she sees Michael. And he's like, good. As soon as you do that, I'm out here in a second. Like, don't worry. I'm not going to leave you. And I was like, this is the cop I should have been watching.
And also, this cop is definitely gonna die soon.
Oh, 100% this cop is dead. And so there's a thorn symbol on the wall behind Donald Pleasance as he's, like, marching around the house. There's some real great ADR. And then Jamie has a seizure, a premonition seizure. And she says Billy, who's the kid with the stutter. And they're like, oh, I guess that means he's at the children's clinic. Everybody to the children's clinic.
Yes.
And I was like, maybe we should leave one or two.
Yeah, we never send everyone. Like, what are you thinking?
Never. And this is so this is a real deep pull that, like, you're gonna get and other people might get if they, like, think about it. But Sam Loomis is on the steps of the house, of the Myers house, and all the cops are running away, and they give him a radio, and they're like, radio us when you get to the station with the little girl, and they all leave. And Loomis does the Beverly D'Angelo cup toss into the bushes from Christmas Vacation with the
Yes,
radio,
yes.
and then just it's literally the same. Like, he's basically Beverly D'Angelo in that scene where he's just looking at them all and was like, toss, go back inside.
So he goes upstairs to where Jamie and this cop are, and he's like,
Loomis Law, we're locking you in here.
and the cop is very much like, absolutely not. I am a police officer, and also I have a gun. At which point, Loomis pulls a gun on a cop and is like, Loomis Law!
No, it's so much better than just Loomis Law, though, because he's like, Charlie, stay with the girl, please. And I was like, this is literally the craziest we've ever seen Loomis.
Yes.
And at this point, Jamie's like, I don't know where I'd rather be. Like,
Yes.
I think I might just jump out the window and take my chances.
So Michael busts into the house, and the cop is like, okay, I got a rope, and he ties it off to a radiator, which is smart. He throws it out the window, and he's like, okay, now I'm going to take a knee, and you climb up my back, and then I'm going to climb out the window with you. And it's like, this is fine. What you're doing is fine, except as soon as Jamie puts her arms around his neck, he looks at the window and he realizes, like, I ain't getting out that window with a kid on my back. Like, I am too big of a human. And it's like, hey, pal, as a guy who's also a man of size, you knew that. Right. Like, you knew that. You should have climbed out the window and had her climb onto you. And then also, you're probably not climbing down this rope super gracefully, Tubby. Why don't you let her go? Why don't you lower her to safety while you know Michael is up here, and then you could, like, fight Michael off or something.
Yeah, I was like, why didn't he just say, climb down now on your own?
Yeah.
I'll come down after you. Because in the fourth movie, she tries to piggyback on Rachel, and they almost die falling off the roof. Like, Jamie's done this before.
All I was envisioning was Jamie climbs down the rope by herself, and then the fat cop starts coming out the window, and Michael just, like, cuts the rope and kills her with the cop. That's like,
Oh my God.
all I was thinking of was, like, Michael leaning out the window with his head cocked like a dog, like he always does, and on the ground is, like, a police officer with a broken back, and then you just could see, like, one of Jamie's feet.
It's like the witch's feet in Wizard of Oz.
And the cop's like, my back.
Loomis sees Michael in the house and tries to reason with him / like trade with him, and ends up quote unquote seeming to die.
Michael throws the cop out of the window and hangs him on the rope, by the way.
It's a really clever kill.
Yeah.
And I wrote, at this point, poor Danielle Harris is doing the most with the least given to her.
And at this point, I'm looking at the runtime of this movie and being like, oh my God, there is so many minutes to go. Like, there's so much nonsense that is just, the sequence is very simple. It would take, like, 10 sentences to write the sequence that happens. It's Jamie locks herself in a room, climbs into a laundry chute. She slides down the laundry chute. He follows her into the basement. Michael, for some reason, can't figure out the mechanism to open the laundry chute, which is literally just like a knob that you have to twist.
Neither could Loomis earlier, and I don't know why no one it's the
so
mechanism
obvious.
is on the outside.
Yes.
You're looking at the mechanism, and you're like, oh, you twist, and everything lifts.
It's a handle that is horizontal, and then when you twist the handle, it operates these two arms to move the arms out of the locked position so you can slide it up. And so the handle needs to go from horizontal to vertical, and the arms will disengage. It's like so obvious looking at it as I was like, oh, just turn the hand, oh my God, just turn the handle. And then Michael just starts stabbing at it, and he stabs it so hard it comes off, which doesn't make any sense.
No, they also when Michael starts stabbing the laundry chute. For a lot of any scene where you saw a knife and Danielle Harris's feet was a real knife stabbing through the laundry.
Oh, cool. Oh, super
Yeah, they
cool
put
and
her in
good.
a lot of danger for this stupid scene. I mean, it's a cool segment. I will give them that. But, like, the only way you can pierce metal with metal is if one of the metal is sharp.
Right.
Like, and that's
That is
actually...
That is
stabbed
catastrophically stupid. That is catastrophically stupid.
So they kept telling... They literally had to be like, hey, Danielle... You can't put your legs here or here. They have to always be in this position because if you move down, like, you could get hurt.
Wow. That's
so crazy.
Really, really stupid. Anyway, the sequence goes on forever where he's, like, stabbing the laundry chute and she's climbing it and he's stabbing it and she's climbing it. And then she finally, like, climbs her way out. I thought Loomis was going to be there to save her. He's not.
Because we have to see the attic first.
Right. So she gets up into the attic. She climbs all the way from the basement to the attic, which, by the way, is a long distance to climb up a laundry chute. FYI.
Yeah.
And in the attic is just like a slew of dead bodies. Just everywhere there's dead bodies.
And candles. It's very like Phantom of the Opera meets Jason Voorhees, like mom shrine.
Exactly. It looks like a cult ritual place, which is not something that is introduced in this movie at all. So it just doesn't make any sense.
No. Jamie gets into the coffin for no reason. And when Michael's about to stab her, there's the real Phantom of the Opera nonsense moment where she's like, let me see your face. And he takes off his mask and she's like, you're just like me. And then he goes crazy and she runs away.
Well,
none of this had to happen.
She also calls him Uncle Boogeyman. Like, not on purpose, but she says uncle, and then there's a brief pause, and she says Boogeyman, and it's like, wait, did you just call him Uncle Boogeyman?
You just call him Uncle Boogeyman.
He cries, and when she goes to touch his face when he cries, that's when he freaks out.
And he throws the coffin into some candles, and one of those candles should have started a fire.
Oh, for sure. At this point, Loomis comes back, and he grabs her, and he's like, you want the child? Come and get her! And it's like, oh shit,
Loomis is the monster.
Fully crazy now. Like, at this point, I would believe there is no Michael, it's just Loomis in a mask, you know? Like, he's full-on crazy man.
And then he drops a chain link net on Michael
it's
that
crazy.
wasn't used earlier for no reason.
again, it's a Home Alone movie, and he shoots him with like 20 tranquilizer darts. Which, like, how does he have that? And why does he have that? And what?
He's taking down an elephant.
Yes, like just you shot him before, shoot him again. Like, you know what the real answer is? Loomis would have like a bazooka. Like he would have his firepower would be so great by this point in the movie where he's like, I shot him 6 times. I burned him alive. Nothing works. I just have a flamethrower. This is my flamethrower. Like that's what I would
he
need.
straps him to like a lumber mill buzzsaw table
Yes.
thing. Like, look, I have no other options.
The only thing that
I need to
would-
watch you cut in half to know you're dead.
The only thing I would believe is if he dropped the chain link net on him and then he used that to like lock him to the floor, like he put a bunch of eye bolts in and he's just like frantically locking Michael in, and then he reveals that this entire house is full of dynamite and he like blows up the house from the street.
I wish.
It's like, help me lock him in, and he's just like frantically throwing locks to
Shoot
Jamie.
her! Shoot her!
Yes, yeah. He's like clicking Michael in, and then, oh, by the way, the house is full of dynamite, and I blow it up to sky high.
But there's a really anticlimactic.
No, instead we get a scene where he gets a 2x4 and he starts clubbing Michael to death going, die, die. And it's like, this man is 70. I'm supposed to believe that this old ass man is doing anything to take Michael down? Come on, movie.
Apparently he is. And then Loomis has a heart attack. It's like the most anticlimactic death, which they retcon, so it's not really a death, but like,
Yeah.
clearly it's supposed to be Loomis's death.
Yes, that's how he's supposed to exit the franchise. Which sucks. Like, Loomis's death should be like he and
A
Michael.
blaze of glory.
Yes, he and Michael plunging off a cliff, or like Loomis is wearing like like Loomis is wearing the bomb or something. Like, I need Loomis being like, "We're going together, boy." Like, I need that.
All right, Michael, let's finish this the way we started.
Yes.
Together. And then he hugs him and they fall off a cliff.
Yes, that's what I want. Hug
Instead,
him
he
and
gets a heart attack.
yeah, and it's really lame. Although he does come back for another movie, at least part of 6 anyway.
Yeah. They cut most of his dialogue because the Weinstein brothers thought he was boring because
Well-
they've always been monsters.
Yeah, this is true. Also, he was like 75 and died like immediately as soon as he finished.
Yeah. He held on out to finish his scenes, though.
So we go to the police station and
Michael's in jail, and I hate everything.
yeah, like, what the hell are we doing here? And he's still wearing the mask, which is like, okay, I know I'm not an expert on policing, but there's no way they don't take that mask off.
Yeah, that mask should be in an evidence lockup,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So Jamie's like, they're like, don't worry, he'll be in here until he dies. And she's like, but he can't die. And he goes outside, or she goes outside rather. And then the mysterious man in black shows up and just lays waste to this police station, kills all the cops, and blows up a cell door. And the movie ends with like the burnt out station and a flapping, burning cell door. And it's like, the end?
With
question
Jamie
mark?
screaming no, like Loomis
Yes,
does.
yes. Which, like,
No! No!
what do you think their vision was for the next movie if Loomis is dead? Like, we know
They
we
didn't have one.
right, but like, okay, if you were to have
They
been
straight
like,
up were like, look, it's someone else's problem
right,
now.
but like, imagine the world where like, hey, we love what you did with the last picture, deal with what you've created, and also Donald Pleasance isn't coming back, so you've killed him and he can't come back. What the hell would that have possibly looked like? Like Michael v. Jamie, or Michael and a weird man in black v. Jamie? Like, she's a child.
I mean, that's why, I guess it's partly why they waited so damn long.
Yes.
And then they screwed over Danielle Harris in part 6.
They did, indeed. So that's Halloween 5. Do you have anything else to add?
It's the worst.
It is. It sucks that we're going out on the worst Michael Myers movie. Like this is it. We did our last 2 Michael Myers shots for the show, and he is just awful. Like, this whole movie stinks so bad.
I forget because I love Halloween 1 so much,
Right.
that I forget that the sequels I think are the worst of any of the 3 main franchises.
Yeah,
like Halloween, Friday, and Nightmare. I think Halloween has the worst sequels.
It does. So we talked about this a bunch, and I don't want to rehash everything, but much like Phil said on our interview with Phil Nobile, the Friday the 13th movies, surprisingly, despite the fact that there's no A in the group, is like the most consistent across like movie to movie. That it's exactly what you're going to get, and it delivers it. Some of them are better than others, but there's no high and there's no low. It's like a very even across. Whereas
I mean, there's one low.
yeah, yes, okay, fair. But like for the most part,
the one where Jason like body hops is
pretty terrible.
garbage.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's like, you're getting, whereas like Halloween has a huge, like, I think Halloween goes A to F, and Nightmare on Elm Street probably goes like B plus to F. I think Friday exists.
I will say, I think New Nightmare, I stand by New Nightmare.
Yeah, no, I like New Nightmare a lot. I'm just saying, like, if you were to grade all of them, I think the high watermark of Nightmare is like a B plus, and the low water.
We'll say a D. I don't think it's an F. I think it's a D.
Okay, well then I think Friday the 13th is in like the same ish ballpark. Like I don't think Friday the 13th dips. I think overall they average out to the best grade. Whereas I'm not sure what the other ones would look like. And I'm not going to do the math to rank all of them, but I think like if you were to take them on average, I think Friday the 13th would win. Like each movie being a similar level.
Because they don't try to be anything they're not. Friday the 13th knows exactly what it is. It's teens at a summer camp, or teens on a boat, or teens somewhere that get killed by a man in a hockey mask.
Right.
And that's it. That's all
they have a modest goal, and they set out to achieve it, and then they do. That's like the whole thing in a nutshell. So yeah, goodbye, Michael Myers. We had a lot of fun with our three dances with you. I'm sure we'll get to Halloween 3 at some point in time, although I don't know when specifically. But
we'll probably do a Back to the Future about the new Halloween.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. That might be something that we release or have released already. We're recording this before it came out, so it could be a thing that you've already heard, and you're like, hey, they predicted the future, or something like that. Yeah, so I'm kind of bummed that this is the end of Michael Myers.
I wish we had switched. We should have done Halloween 2 second.
Yeah. If I had known what I know now, I would have done them in reverse order. But yeah, this is a real stinker. I heartily do not recommend this movie to anyone.
No.
And suggest that you don't watch it at all for any reason, because it stinks.
Nope.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. I want to do a couple real quick things here before we let you go, and just remind you that we are on Patreon. If you haven't checked that out yet, please take an opportunity to do so. We have a $2 tier and an $88 tier and a whole bunch in between, but you can, if you sign up right now at the $5 level, you unlock a bonus episode immediately, and then the next one of those is just around the corner in December. So good time to join up now and get yourself some bonus Dissecting the 80s content. And thank you all for being Patreons and supporters of the show. We use that money to change the way the show is hosted, which has really given us a lot of, given me anyway, a lot less anxiety about making sure the show gets to you every week, or every other week rather. It's been really a big boost for us that way, and it only happened because everybody decided to chip in and help us out. So we have some more ambitious plans for the show, but every little bit helps, and so we're looking for unlocking that next tier and helping us out to make sure the show stays around, because genuinely the fans of this show, the listeners of this show, have already made it better by chipping in a little money, and so we're really, really grateful for that.
We'll bring you VR.
Yes, the Dissecting the 80s VR experience. It's just you sit next to us on the couch and watch a movie, and we take notes. It's not
we pause it sometimes.
Yes, and they're like, "Oh my god, what is he doing?" Like, he just got a notebook there. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can email us at dissectingthe80s@gmail.com. And if you haven't yet, tell 2 friends about the show. If you've got a friend out there who's like, hey, man, what's a good podcast? Or hey, lady, what's a good podcast? Tell them our show, maybe.
Or hey, person.
Yeah, you're a person with a good, impeccable taste. What's a good podcast? And you say, Dissecting the 80s, of course. You don't have to say it like that. I'm assuming your interactions are a little more normal human mouth sounding than that. But yes, tell people about the show. It always helps to hear things from your friends. We return November 5th with something I'm very excited about. I don't think Andrew even knows this yet, but it's Rocky 3 for the release of Creed 2. So we get to hang out with Mr. T, who is going to certainly pity the fool.
Okay, I'm on board for that.
It's our last Rocky movie ever. We already did 4. This is it. This is the final Rocky. We only got 2 cracks at it in the 80s, so this is the second time we're getting to do a Rocky movie. Thank you all once again for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Until November 5th.
Don't you forget about me.
Michael!
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.